I had not at that time expected to meet the author. The thing I was thrilled about was this. I consider that book to be essential to your knowledge bank. Scripture says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. And I would that everybody would read, especially beginning with this public education necessary. It gives an excellent, readable, and I say parent-friendly history of education in America. In fact, that's how I speak of all of Sam Blumenthal's books as no-nonsense, parent-friendly method of education. And I cannot recall exactly when I first met Sam. I believe it was at a curriculum fair in Denver, Colorado. We've had occasion to speak on other platforms. I've gotten to know him very well. And I will say this about it. It won't take very long for you to fall in love with Dr. Samuel Blumenthal. So with no further ado, make him welcome.
Thank you, Tom, for that very kind introduction. I didn't expect that we were going to start a love affair, but you never know what you're going to find at a homeschool conference. But I do want to thank you first for your greeting, birthday greeting. It is my birthday today, my 65th birthday, and of course it's supposed to be a very traumatic event because today I am an antique. So that's what it means to be 65. Yesterday I was middle-aged, today I'm old. And you'll all get there. And the thing that you worry about most is your Social Security, you see, because 65 is the most important date. So now I'm eligible for Medicare. Fine, very good. I'm not going to complain about it. Another thing I'd like to say, tell you all that this is not a PTA meeting. You know, when you're on an airplane, they usually tell you, this plane is going to Los Angeles. Anyone who is not going to Los Angeles, please leave the plane. You know, this is not a PTA meeting. If you expect to see one, please leave. In fact, I would advise you to get your safety belt, or whatever it's called. Your seatbelt. Fasten your seatbelt. We're in for a rather interesting evening. Charles mentioned that I don't mince any words, that I speak very plainly. And I do that because we're told in the Bible, for if the trumpet give an uncertain sound, who shall prepare himself for the battle? So likewise, ye, except ye utter by the tongue words easy to be understood, how shall it be known what is spoken? For ye shall speak into the air. So I've tried to be very clear and precise in what I have to say because I want people to understand what is happening in America and why what is happening is so important for their families. One of the remarkable things about the last 10 to 15 years is the growth of the homeschool movement. And I've been blessed with being able to travel around the country and stay in many homeschool families with them, to get to know them, to meet their children. And you can't find brighter, more friendly children than the homeschool children. There's something about them that is so special, so different from the average public schooler in America that it's quite a remarkable feeling you get when you are among homeschool children. They are different. There's no question about it. And because remember, our founding fathers were homeschooled. And they had this great intellect. And nobody worried about their socialization. And nobody worried about their taking achievement tests. And nobody worried about whether or not their parents were certified. Isn't that amazing? All the things now that are required of you parents just because you want to teach your own children at home. You've got to be certified. You've got to take all kinds of strange tests. Of course, we know why parents are homeschooling. We know why there are so many young families here, young parents who are prepared not only to remove their children from the public schools, but also to not even to put their children in the public schools. Formerly, I used to tell parents that they ought to or should take their children out of the public schools. Now I tell them that they must take them out of the public schools. An unequivocal must. They have no choice if they want to make sure that their children are safe and are brought up and educated in a manner that makes sense. And the reason for that is because American education is no longer in the hands of educators or teachers. It's in the hands of psychologists, of behavioral psychologists, who have their own agenda. A short time ago, I got a call from a person I've known for a number of years, Barbara Eastman. And she's a very remarkable writer, and she's been working on a book on what has been going on behind the scenes in American education. And she's put it in a new book which will be published in a short time, entitled Education for the New World Order. I'm sure you've heard of the New World Order. We've all heard of the New World Order. And the interesting thing that she found out is that the federal government is now financing an incredible amount of psychological business that's going on in labs all over the country that are concerned with education. And she came to the conclusion that children entering school today are the first recipients of birth-to-death computerized dossiers built around a Social Security number. So every child now has a Social Security number. It's now in the computer bank. See, when a child enters that public school, that's the beginning of the record. Included in their files are probable political leanings, personal hang-ups, and family, financial, and personal background data, all couched in terms of demographic research and academic testing. You know, now they're going to have this national testing. NAEP, they call it. Everybody is going to be tested. All the children are going to be tested. Where do you think all that data is going? It's going into this supercomputer in Washington. And because it's run by psychologists, the schools are set up as clinics and laboratories where youthful opinions are analyzed for defects, documented and sent to cross-referenceable, non-secure, centralized computer banks along with private information about family members. Well, they already have a lot of information about you in the IRS computers. Now the education computers are going to know much more about you and your family, about your children, everything they do. You know that children fail kindergarten in America? Can you imagine failing kindergarten? How can you fail sandbox? How can you fail blocks? But they do, and it's put on the record. It's in the computer. It's in the printout. And that will be with that child for the rest of his life. Can you imagine beginning life as a failure in kindergarten? Speaking of self-esteem, you know, and they're so concerned about self-esteem. So we have this new supercomputer. It's called the Elementary and Secondary Integrated Data System. And it was brought online in 1988. It's already in operation. And the computer will amass personal data accessible as psychological profiles on children and their families through the use of mandated school assessment tests. And now you begin to understand what all these reforms are about. You've heard about restructuring, how they're going to restructure the schools, and we're going to have all of these tests that kids are going to have to take, and it's all going to be on computers. The elementary and secondary integrated data system will make it possible to link the test data with as many as 85 other state and federal computer networks, something that has not been possible before, and in effect create dossiers on every citizen in America. In other words, the education system is being used as the tool for the totalitarianization of this country, should it ever go in that direction. In other words, they will have everything they need to know everything about every single individual because everybody's got to go to school. They've got compulsory school attendance laws, don't they? And why is it that they're so concerned about you people who are going to take your children out of the schools who are already homeschooling? You're not going to be on the computer, you see. You're not going to be under their control. They're not going to be able to take your children and educate them in the way that they want. Now, these psychologists have all kinds of techniques of changing the behavior of your children. Because Ralph Tyler, one of the major designers of the National Assessment of Educational Progress, has defined education as, quote, a process of changing behavior patterns, unquote. That's what they're doing in the public school. It's a process of changing behavior patterns. They're not teaching anything. They don't teach children to read anymore. They've got what is called whole language now in most of the primary schools in America. In whole language, they teach the children about reading. They don't teach them how to read. But they teach about reading. You know, all about reading, how to hold a book, how to listen to a book. They don't teach them to read. They deliberately avoid teaching phonics. They tell the teachers, do not teach phonics. Do not emphasize the teaching of sub-skills, they call it. They don't even use the word phonics, they call it sub-skills. They don't teach spelling anymore. The kids use, creative spelling. Have you heard of creative spelling? Creative spelling is you can spell it any way you want. We want the kids to write, you see, so let them write any way they want. Creative spelling. So the kids will spend years writing words incorrectly, not knowing how to spell them, and then somewhere along the line, if they're ever eligible for a spelling bee, they'll find out that they don't know how to spell. It's interesting that tonight on television they have a picture of George Bush, the president, with the 4 winners in the spelling bee. And the president asked the children, what is the key to your success? How come you're such great spellers? You know what their answer was, all 4 of them? Mother. Mother taught us to spell. Mother did it. Not the schools, but mother taught them. See, the schools no longer teach spelling because they believe that a child's self-esteem is so fragile, it's like an eggshell, that it's so much as